The season is close. It's coming. It is close. Nameco right here. I'm Dustin. We are talking about handcuffs for the upcoming season, who you should be looking at. But before we get into that,
let's talk about fantasy jocks. Dustin, put on your bling. Championship rings. These things are so money.
they're fun.
I absolutely love the one that I'm wearing. And I like Dustin's as well.
Really fun if you did that every year. Hands on down. Get on to fantasy
Yeah,
jocks.
because even if you're not, because who's going to wear this like every single day? But even nice display.
You would.
Yeah, I could see myself. Not every day, but I could see myself actually
Maybe a
rocking
couple
around
days a
little
week.
bit. Yeah. So, all right, Dustin, what exactly is a handcuff?
So, I mean, handcuff, basically you're taking the backup running back for the running back that you already have just for security. So when we're looking at handcuffs in terms of this video and what we're thinking about, it's mainly running backs that are in a one-back system. So essentially that team typically favors one running back for the majority of the carries every week. They're not in a 50-50 timeshare every week. So that's key. You don't want to handcuff what I like to call a mess. Like, you know, if you could do something like in Cincinnati where you get Gio Bernard and Jeremy Hill, where they basically split the carries right down the middle, and if one of them gets hurt, they're just going to replace that role with another person. Like, it's not really what you want to do in terms of a handcuff. It's typically one-back system just for security. If the main guy goes down, you got the backup, and he's going to step in and hopefully do well.
So what we ended up doing was, it's not 100%, but it's kind of in order of how important we think the handcuffs are. So we kind of did the list that way. It's not 100% locked in like that, but if they're earlier in the list, that means we think it's pretty important to get the handcuffs. So Dustin, start us off with the first one.
D'Angelo Williams. I
Done.
mean, this one's huge. Le'Veon Bell's out the first 4 games. We all saw what Williams did last year, you know, when Bell got hurt. I mean, Williams could be a legit RB1 the first 4 games, and then, you know, if you have Bell with his injury history, you're going to want to have Williams on your team. So if you take Bell, just be ready to use maybe as early as a 7th or 8th round pick on Williams just to make sure you lock that up.
The next one is kind of an interesting one, and that's Freeman and Coleman for the Atlanta Falcons. So Freeman obviously had that monster year last year, but going into the draft, we were big fans of Coleman, and so are the Atlanta Falcons. Some injuries, some fumble issues later, and Freeman just kept playing so well that he ran away with it. Now, coming into camp, all the hypes again around Coleman. So this is one of the most interesting ones because you're going to have to pay a high price for Freeman, but due to all the hype for Coleman, you're going to have to pay a very high price for him as well. But just if you can do that, you should probably try to, because I think that there's a slight little teeny chance that Coleman ends up at some point getting the job even without a Freeman injury. That could happen.
It's possible. He was a starter before he got hurt last year. Tennessee's the next situation. I mean, this one's weird because you got DeMarco Murray, and obviously you bring him over, you're excited about him. Here's our running back, and then you go and draft Derrick Henry, who's one of the best rookie running backs. If Henry had landed with the Cowboys, he would probably be a borderline first-round pick with all the Elliott love. I mean, he's that good of a running back. So this is an interesting thing to monitor. I mean, this could be a situation where, depending on how Tennessee does, there could be a very rare midseason trade or something like that. If they're just like, okay, we really need to see what this kid can do, they're going to find a way to get him involved at some point. Murray owners, you're definitely going to want to consider taking Henry late because he can be someone that can be special.
Absolutely. All right, my next one is the Green Bay Packers situation. You got Eddie Lacy and you got Starks. It feels like all Eddie Lacy owners know this, that at some point they've had to rush to the waiver wire to pick up Starks. So Lacy's going around pick 27 right now. Starks going around pick 124. We're hearing early reports say they might go with a hot hand approach, split it a lot more, but they're going to give Lacy every shot to be the starter. So it could be Groundhog Day all over again with Lacy and Starks. So if you're drafting Lacy, it's not a bad idea to get Starks a little bit later.
Good old fat Eddie. The Viking situation is the next one. McKinnon, poor McKinnon. I feel bad for him. Like, he's been waiting for his chance.
He'll get a shot. It's coming
for so long. But Peterson, no signs of slowing down. But if Peterson does get hurt, I think it's very clear that McKinnon would get the shot. He'd be getting touches, getting the carries. He's going to be the guy to own out there. So same deal, Peterson. Take a look at McKinnon.
And think of it this way: McKinnon would be a lock #1 waiver wire guy to add.
Right.
You know, so same thing with this next one. Ingram Hightower for the Saints. Everyone knows what Hightower did at the end of last year. He blew up. And I was surprised about the ADPs. Ingram's ADP is 26. Hightower's 203, which means he's not getting drafted in a lot of leagues. he is absolutely, it was proven last year, a legit handcuff to Ingram. So Ingram owners, you can wait to your very last pick, grab Hightower and go from there, second to last, because your last pick is
Your kicker.
of course.
Doug Martin, Charles Sims is next. I mean, Doug Martin, what a resurgence last year. The Bucks offense, it looks like they're heading in the right direction. Sims will have value even if Martin doesn't get hurt, but Sims is special. He's a special talent. I do think they probably would bring someone else in if Doug Martin. I don't think Sims would necessarily carry the load, but I do think he would see an increase in workload to make him be valuable enough as being worthy of using a roster spot to handcuff with Doug Martin. So in some situations, I definitely think Doug Martin owners, you might want to get Sims on your team.
Last one I got, CJ Anderson and the rookie Booker for the Denver Broncos. CJ Anderson.
You never know what you're going to get.
First of all, in the years past, you're like, who is the handcuff? Is it Hellman? Is it Thompson? It's been all over the place. It might not necessarily be Booker, but as Dustin was saying, as we were talking about this prior, he's like, listen, Booker's got some nice upside. If I get Anderson, I'm definitely just going to try to get Booker. He's not the lock handcuff even to him. That's why he's last on this list. But he looks kind of special.
He's not the lock handcuff, but he's also not, it's not locked in that he can't even potentially be the
win
starter.
the job. Yeah, that's a good point too.
So there's a lot of uncertainty of the running back in Denver, but.
So in terms of handcuffs, I don't do it for every player, obviously. I normally do it for maybe one. And really, if I have a very deep bench, then I'm doing a handcuff. So take a look at the bench spots. If you say, let's say you have 6 or 7 of them, you can definitely use one on a handcuff. If it's a shallow bench, like only 3, 4 players, then I'm probably not handcuffing anybody. So it's really based on your settings.
For me, it's more about how many teams are in your league than how many bench spots I have. Because if it's like a 12, 14 team league, running backs get so thin so fast. I want to lock up my top running back spot because, you know, if you have injuries in a 10-team league, you can play the wire, you can do your stuff.
But if you have a really deep bench, then a lot of them are gone. So it's kind of the same thing, Dustin. That's okay. You can think of it that way. It's how many roster spots is the sum of the whole. So if it's 12 teams with...
But if you got 14 teams, it gets thinner a lot.
Right, but 14 teams with a 4-person bench compared to 10 teams with an 8-person bench.
That's like an 8-person bench.
7-person bench? I got a league where I got 7 bench spots.
I think it's more about how many teams in your league, but
it's how many total roster spots there are.
It is.
It's the same thing. It's how many total roster spots. Because if there's multiple teams, it's more roster spots taken. How many people out of the pool? It's math.
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 I get math. Yep. Handcuff if you want to. Name go right here. I'm Dustin. Check out all our other videos. Check out our draft guide. Get on the Instagram. We're trying to get some followers on there. That was awful.
Was it? Take a look at the film there, boss. He's just bitter. He's bitter because he knows I was right.
No, my point was still valid.
You're like, I don't look at how deep the bench is. I only look at the number of teams.
If you have 2 more teams
if you have a
14-team
league, and if you do a 12-team league, and there's only 3 bench spots.
If you have like 15 people you're drafting, that's 30 more people that you're drafting just for 2 more teams.
Right, but the same thing in a 10-team league. If you have 2 more bench spots than
that's only 20.
Than you do in a 12-team league.
I'm telling you, it's more about the teams.
It's the exact same thing. I'm saying it's teams and bench. It's both.